Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the live chat. It is awesome to see everyone again. So pumped to be back. There has been a ton of news really over the last couple days. So we have so much to discuss, so much to talk about. Thanks again, everyone, for hopping into the chat. So anyone that this is your first time ever being part of the live chat, the way this works, it is a stream that is essentially driven by you. It is driven by your comments. It is driven by your questions. So make sure you drop those into the chat because that's really the driving force behind this stream. So we have a whole bunch of stuff we can talk about. I'll go over some of the big topics right off the top like I usually do, and then we'll dive in. We'll get your thoughts, and yeah, we'll have a good chat today, folks. Want to give a quick shout out right at the beginning to Split End 89 for moderating the chat again. Thanks as always, Split End. You're doing awesome work. I appreciate it so much. So a couple things we can talk about that have happened over the last couple days. First of all, Xbox, Microsoft has confirmed we are finally going to see some next-gen games on May 7th. That's right, just a few days away now. We are finally going to get our first look at some proper next-gen games. Now, that event is really going to be focused on third-party. Microsoft has made that clear. It's not a big first-party showcase. It's really focused on third parties, but still, that's very exciting. Whole bunch of stuff that we can talk about in regards to that. So we've got that we can talk about. Assassin's Creed Valhalla has been officially announced. The tracking on it is looking crazy. It's doing big numbers online. So Assassin's Creed Valhalla, really exciting. We can talk about that. A whole bunch of stuff. Game Pass has hit 10 million subscribers, which is a huge number. There's so much. So I'm going to go ahead and start diving into your comments right now because there's so many just headlines I can go off the top that we would be here for a while. So let's dive in. I know you're all going to have a bunch of great and interesting takes about all of this. So let's get going, folks. Split End 89 kicking it off saying don't forget to hit that like button so we can fill this puppy up. Appreciate it, Split End. The likes always help the channel, always help spread the word. So yeah, I would appreciate it. GC2F guy saying, hey, what's up? WonderFizz saying, what's up? And we actually have our first question here from WonderFizz. What's one reveal you hope to see at the Xbox event next week? So also let me add one more thing really quick to that before I get to your question, WonderFizz. I will be off of work on May 7th that morning. So anyone that likes the channel, anyone that likes the chat, I will be off. I will be live streaming reactions. Chat's going to be kicking. So May 7th, if you don't have anywhere else to be that morning, make sure you're here on the channel because we're going to be doing live reactions and a live discussion to the Xbox event. So WonderFizz, since this is third-party focused, I'm not going to go into what I want to see from Microsoft first party. I'm going to talk about third party. The one thing I really hope we see, I think it's time to see Elden Ring. That is right. Elden Ring, which was announced on the Xbox stage, made by From Software, famous for, Dark Souls, Sekiro, so many games. It seems that Microsoft has Xbox, marketing on that game, considering it was announced at their E3 stage. So I think it's time. We haven't seen anything from Elden Ring in a year. The only thing we saw was like this extremely brief teaser. So, I mean, it basically gave you a concept of the world, but it didn't share much at all. So I think it's time. We need to see Elden Ring. Elden Ring is going to be the one I'm really watching out for, and I think there's a good chance it's there. From Software is going to have to start talking about that game soon. They've been radio silent for so long. Put it this way. If Elden Ring is not at this show, I think development is in trouble. I don't think that the game's necessarily canceled. I'm not saying anything like that. But I don't think development's going great if you don't see Elden Ring here, because that would be a full year with nothing shown, but a very brief teaser. So I think Elden Ring needs to be there, and I'm excited to see it. So Elden Ring is going to be my number one thing I hope we see. GC2F guy, That Assassin's Creed trailer, what is your thoughts? So, two thoughts here. First, let's go from a personal perspective. You know, my what I'm looking at on the game. I think it looks awesome. I'm a sucker for Vikings. I'm a sucker for, you know, this big epic scale that they're advertising. I loved the newest God of War, which went into that Norse mythology. So yeah, I think it looks great. The trailer, I think it's fun how they're playing with, hey, you know, the Vikings aren't just this like conquering people that are just, you know, have like no emotion. They're just going through and conquering and killing everyone. I thought it was a nice play in the trailer how they kind of showed, you know, there's a family side to these people as well, and they didn't make them, you know, like your stereotypical Viking. I liked that. I thought that was very cool. The whole stuff that's come out after the trailer about the gameplay has me very, very excited. A whole bunch of interesting stuff there. So yeah, overall thoughts, I think Valhalla looks great. I am very excited for that game. In terms of sales, you know, I've been tweeting about this. I think this is clearly going to be the best-selling Assassin's Creed game at launch since at least Assassin's Creed 4. I don't know that it can break the all-time record for Assassin's Creed, which is Assassin's Creed 3. That was the biggest launch ever for the franchise. I'm not going to go that high yet until I see some more metrics, until I see some more info, you know, instantly projecting that this is going to be the biggest ever. I'm not going to take that leap yet, but I will say I think it's going to be much stronger than Origins at launch in sales, much stronger than Odyssey was in sales, and both those games did good, but I think this is going to be a lot bigger even. It has the hype of going into next gen, being like, you know, this really huge launch game for next gen. It has the Viking setting, which seems to be popular right now. I think it has a lot of good things going for it. So GC2F guy, feeling very strong about Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Split End 89. So OXM said the Horizon Zero Dawn preview in the new issue is of the comic, and there's a new character. Maybe it's the co-op one. Interesting, Split End 89. I had not seen that. It's possible, you know, like we talked about in the chat before, there was these recent reports that Horizon Zero Dawn is going to have the sequel is going to have some sort of co-op element involved in it. We don't know the full extent of that, but we do know that it is, you know, a core part of the gameplay. So it's entirely possible that that is the new character Split End. I'm not sure, but you know, it's an interesting theory. And then GC2F guy saying, what's this thing coming in May to August, please? Yes. So that is Jeff Keighley. He just announced that they are going to be having, I don't remember the exact name. Let me pull this up really quick because I don't want to get anything wrong here on stream. I don't want to be spreading no misinformation. Summer Game Fest. So Summer Game Fest is being launched by Jeff Keighley. And essentially what it is 4 months of new game announcements, new gameplay of some sort, like actual gameplay that we'll be able to experience, events in games. It sounds really exciting. So think of it almost in a way as a E3 replacement type thing, but stretched out for a long period of time. He gave away some of the companies that are involved in this, and there are big ones. We have CD Projekt Red, we have Microsoft and Xbox, Sony and PlayStation are on board, EA, I want to say Activision, I think, Take-Two. It was a whole bunch of the biggest publishers in the industry are all on board with this. So it's really exciting. Basically, there's going to be some announcements stretched out over these next 4 months. And one of the cool things is he's kind of hinting, it sounds like there might be a lot of like demos, like actual playable, downloadable demos that may be part of this, which could be really cool. You know, there's no industry shows right now. Everything's shut down due to the pandemic. So it sounds like part of this push for the Summer Game Fest is to kind of get some gameplay into people's hands. They've talked about this with Steam. They've talked about it with Xbox Live. So that could be very exciting. Very, very exciting. Shout out to Jeff Keighley. He's always pushing the industry to try new things, to try and get games more and more exposure. So yeah, exciting stuff there. Forzathon. Hi, Benji. It seems like Sony have identified the individuals behind the Last of Us 2 leaks, and they were not affiliated with SIE or Naughty Dog. Yes, Forzathon. I just saw that right before I jumped on the stream. It looks like Game Industry Biz ran an article that they have spoken with Sony and that Sony has confirmed they know who did it, and it is not someone actually employed with Naughty Dog or Sony. So that is interesting. I wonder how this leak happened. Puts to bed all those rumors that were going around that it was a disgruntled employee and things like that. It clearly is not something to do with that. It's something completely different. So the interesting thing here to me is, how did this person or these people, we don't know exactly who did this, how did they get access to all of this footage? Because it's substantial. So, that's going to be an interesting story to see how that plays out. Did someone hack into a server? Did someone do something like this? That's pretty wild stuff. It was someone not employed with Sony or Naughty Dog. So, yeah, someone got a hold of something they definitely should not have had access to. GC2F guy, do you think Sony will announce May now, or what's your thoughts, please? So all of the rumors that are coming around right now via Jeff Grubb and some other people seem to point that the PlayStation event, the probably the big event, is June 4th. So June 4th, that has not been officially announced. So don't take that to the bank. Don't assume for sure that June 4th is the exact date, but it's looking like June 4th is probably going to be the big Sony event. But something else that has come out is that it looks like maybe the hardware reveal, just the hardware, not necessarily a games showcase, but the hardware reveal for the PlayStation 5 maybe earlier. So maybe that is going to happen in May. But I wouldn't expect the main game showcase now until June 4th. Trustworthy people are pointing towards that date. So as of now, I'm penciling that in, that June 4th is probably the date that we're looking at for PS5 reveal. It will be cool to see hardware maybe a little bit earlier. Keep in mind, as big as this Microsoft show is going to be here on May 7th, it's not everything. Microsoft said first party is being saved until later in the summer. I'm assuming June for that. So I don't expect to see a big blowout of Sony first party in May. I'm thinking that's probably unlikely now. Samuel Tolbert. Hey, Benji, what are you hoping to see at the third-party focused Xbox event? And by extension, what do you think of Xbox holding a later second event focused entirely on first-party content? Thanks for the great question, Samuel. Couple thoughts here. There are several thoughts I have on all of this. First of all, let's get your first question. What are the things that I want to see, that I'm expecting to see? We have one thing confirmed, and that is that we are going to see the very first gameplay for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So I'm really excited for that. I loved Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and everything I'm reading about Valhalla sounds frankly amazing to me. I'm like way on board with this game. So I'm very excited to see that. The gameplay show, reveal is going to be there, confirmed. In terms of what else I want to see, like I mentioned off the bat, Elden Ring, I think, has a very strong possibility of being there. Excited to see Elden Ring. Secondly, I think there's a good chance we see Cyberpunk 2077. That's not a for sure thing, but Microsoft has the marketing rights for that. So it would make a lot of sense for Cyberpunk to be there. Not a lock, but I would be very interested to see Cyberpunk again. A, because I'm super excited for that game, and B, we haven't seen anything out of Cyberpunk in a while. So that's another one I would like to see there. Really quick, we have a super chat. Let me give a shout out to this super chat really quick, and I'll finish off your question, Samuel. But I want to say thank you so much. Frostbite Slash here dropping a super chat. I believe I heard it was some sort of security breach. Also, Neil Druckmann just tweeted out that some of the leaks that are out in the wild are false. Interesting. So I'd say that plot synopsis is incorrect. Thank you for the shared information, Frostbite Slash. Thank you for the super chat. Means a ton to me. And yes, that is going to be an interesting scenario to watch. And it's also interesting that Neil confirmed that some of the leaks are false. Very interesting. All right, let me get back to Samuel's end of his question here. And then, yeah, as to the last part, what do I think about first party and third party kind of being separated here by Microsoft? I actually think it's a good move. I've seen a bit of like mixed stuff online. I've seen some people being like, I want to see the first party stuff, or, why aren't they just doing one big show? I think there's a couple things here. So first of all, getting your first focus on third party, I think actually sends a pretty good message to the industry. It's kind of Microsoft saying, hey, we want to present you your own show, give you your own platform, your own time. I think that's actually pretty cool of them. And secondly, it really shows how much content Microsoft first party has in the pipeline, that they think they can fill an entire another show with just first party. I've kind of commented on this and hinted a bit at this online on Twitter and stuff. Some of the things I'm hearing out of Microsoft first party are huge, like big, big, big. Next gen, people aren't going to be able to use the talking points that you saw this gen of, Xbox has no games. It's just Forza, Gears, and Halo. Some of the talking points you've seen now for years. I'm just going to tell you right now, a lot of that's going to go out the window next gen. Microsoft first party investment is literally the biggest it's ever been. I can tell you that right now. They're spending more money on first party games right now than the Xbox division has since the day it was started. They have never spent more money. So it's going to be big. So that is really exciting for anyone that wants to see those Microsoft first party games. The fact that they have a whole show filled with it, going to be exciting stuff. Split End 89. The cool thing about May 7th as it's third party, so we're seeing next gen as a whole. That's a great point. So if you're just a PlayStation fan, let's say you're not involved in the Xbox ecosystem at all, you're not going to buy an Xbox Series X or Series S or whatever comes out. The good news is that show on May 7th, even if you're just going to buy a PS5, it's third party focused. So maybe there will be one or two exclusive third party games there. That is a possibility. Microsoft has mentioned that they will be publishing multiple exclusive third party games, but I suspect that the vast majority are going to be multi-platform games. So even if you're just getting a PS5, good news, May 7th, you're going to see some games that you're really excited for that you're going to be able to play on your PS5. So yeah, very, very cool. Elias Stapleton saying they saw the leaks for Last of Us and they're still excited to play it and have it pre-ordered. Same, Elias. I am actually in the exact same boat as you. Javier Macias Leon. Hi, Benji. I'm really excited for the Xbox Series X Games Showcase. Do you think we will see something from Capcom? Ooh, Resident Evil is always with PlayStation, but maybe something else like Dragon's Dogma. Javier, I really think there's a strong chance Dragon's Dogma 2 is coming next gen. I have a very strong feeling on this. There's a couple reasons. First of all, we know Capcom actually already almost made that game. Whenever they were deciding to make Devil May Cry 5 or Dragon's Dogma 2, those were both on the table. They were looking at both. They were willing to make either one. In the end, they decided to go with Devil May Cry 5. But what that shows you is that they don't see Dragon's Dogma as a dead franchise. They wouldn't have explored possibly bringing it back if they had no intention of ever doing it. So I do think that Dragon's Dogma 2 is probably coming. Will it be here? I'm going to guess no, Javier, mostly because I don't think that game started development. If Dragon's Dogma 2 is already in the works, I don't think it started until Devil May Cry 5 finished. So that would mean the project is very early on, really in like its first year or so of development. So I'd be surprised if they already have something to show on that. But to answer your question, I definitely think it's coming. Something else from Capcom is possible, but it's hard to say. Maybe they're going to show Resident Evil 8. That game, though, has always, like you said, it's really associated with PlayStation. So if anything, I would think Resident Evil 8 will be announced at a PlayStation event. So Javier, for now, I'm going to say probably nothing from Capcom unless it's something brand new. Not a Resident Evil game, not a Dragon's Dogma, something brand new from Capcom. Super Peach Boy. Benji, love your work. Sending you good vibes from India. Thank you, Super Peach Boy. Cheers to India. Hope you're doing great over there. Hope everyone in India is doing awesome. Elias Stapleton, IGN event, Jeff event, Xbox event, possibly PlayStation event 2 in May and June. Excited for next gen. Yes, Elias, right now is a good time to be excited about gaming, because boy, is the news cycle ramping up hard. You know, there was a little bit there where things were looking a little shaky. You know, events were being canceled. E3 was being canceled. GDC was being canceled. A whole bunch of cancellations were happening. Things were really quieting down. It was starting to get like, understandably, you know, considering everything the world's going through with the pandemic right now, completely understandably. But it was starting to look like, man, the news cycle might get a little boring. You know, we might really be waiting on some stuff. But man, is it ramping up now. If you're excited about games, now is a fantastic time coming up. The next 2 months are going to be amazing. Forzathon. Another game that has just disappeared for a while is Tales of Arise. Yep. Hopefully this will be in Inside Xbox. Forzathon, I think you're spot on. I think it will be there. The only way I think we don't see Tales of Arise at the Microsoft event on May 7th is if that game is current gen only. Microsoft mentioned, which of course next gen's backwards compatible, but they're going to be focusing on this event on games that are going to play better on Series X. That's the whole point of the show. The show is a Series X showcase. So the only way I would say Tales of Arise isn't there, considering it was announced on the Microsoft E3 stage, is if that game is not going to be enhanced on next gen. If it's just coming out current gen with no enhancements. But if it is being enhanced, I think there's a very strong chance we see Tales of Arise. Red Hood 420. Can we talk about the news article that just came out about the leaker? Yeah, I just mentioned that a little bit, Red Hood 420. Hopefully we went into that a little bit of enough. It's interesting. We're going to have to wait until we get more information on it, but it is very interesting the person is not an employee. That changes things up a lot. Dangerman 1337. I know the May 7th event is third party, but we aren't going to see any Halo Infinite teaser. It's possible, Dangerman 1337, but I think it's really going to be third-party showcase. I sent out a tweet on this saying, you know, it's really going to be third-party focused. That's the messaging that Microsoft's talking about. And Aaron Greenberg from Xbox actually liked the tweet. So I think that sends a pretty clear message if he's liking the tweet that I'm saying about really being third-party. That basically means Xbox is really about third-party here. So if there's anything first party, I would say it's just gonna be a tease. Maybe some stuff. I wouldn't be shocked if at the very end of this Inside Xbox, you see Microsoft throw a little teaser and say, see more in June. That wouldn't shock me, you know, kind of to cap off this show and really get people excited for that first party event. Something like that may happen, but Danger Man, I wouldn't expect like a big Halo showing. That's probably not coming until June. So I wouldn't expect anything big. At most, a teaser. Really, this is going to be about third-party games. Russian Alphabet user. Hey, Benji, hope you are good, man. Doing great. What's your opinion on Game Pass numbers? So yes, let's dive into this because this is really exciting, actually, like for Microsoft, which I know this chat's a lot about Xbox right now, but Xbox has a lot of news right now, you know? So Game Pass subs have now hit 10 million active subscribers. That is an amazing result. It really is. And I want to give a shout out to Microsoft for finally giving us some info. We have everyone, not just people in the sales community, regular gamers, people have been wondering forever, what is Game Pass like? Like, what are the numbers we're looking at? Is there 2 million? Is there 5 million? Is there 8 million? No one knew. You know, it was something that there was zero info on. We finally have a number. Over 10 million subscribers. And that is an incredibly strong result. To compare it to PS Now, which is completely different, so no one get riled up. This isn't about platform wars or anything like that. It's just to give a comparison. PS Now in October of last year was only at 1 million. I suspect that's higher now. I'd be surprised if they're up to 2 million, but maybe growth is really high. But either way, it shows you the difference. Now, there's a key reason for this difference. Let's not get it twisted. Microsoft is putting their games day one in the service. If Sony was doing the same with PS Now, that 1 million subscribers on PS Now would be way higher. It would be way higher. So, of course, Microsoft is really doing some things to drive that subscriber number so high. But man, 10 million is incredibly impressive. There's really no way to spin it that it's not. There's just honestly not. If you see anyone out there trying to spin 10 million subs is bad, I hate to say it, but they have an agenda. To hit 10 million that quickly, it's pretty amazing. It's a pretty staggeringly strong result. And one thing I tweeted out about was just imagine what that number is going to be once Halo Infinite comes out. Halo Infinite launching day one into Game Pass, that's going to drive a few million more subs. I can definitely predict that. So it's an incredibly strong result. We'll have to see the growth rate continuing. I don't want to sit here and praise it too much, because if that kind of stagnates and we don't see a ton of growth past this, then there will be more to talk about. But 10 million in the couple years it's been around, great start. Very, very good start. Kieran Buckley, do you think if Nintendo doesn't have a big holiday game this year, will this Switch be affected by that or no? This is a great question, Kieran. So one thing that has come out is it looks like Nintendo's Direct that they normally do in June, right at E3, the big Direct, it's one of their biggest Directs of the year every year. They make big announcements there. It looks like that has been delayed due to Japan in particular really struggling with this transition to work from home that's going on with the pandemic. So it's a bit up in the air what's going on with Nintendo's first-party games right now. Nothing has been officially delayed. We don't have any confirmation of that other than the event itself being delayed, the Direct. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch, Kieran. They definitely need some games. Nintendo's had an amazing release slate for the Switch so far. That they've had so many good games, so many massive sellers. We just saw Animal Crossing completely blow up and dominate the charts. So the Switch has had an amazing software output, but the rest of this year as of now is looking very light. So it could affect sales, Kieran. It definitely could. Now, will it for sure? I'm not going to predict that yet because we need to see what Nintendo actually has. If they really are able to get Breath of the Wild 2 out the door at the end of this year, or if they're able to get some of these big rumored Mario games out the door, there's nothing to really worry about in sales. Switch will still be incredibly strong, incredibly good. But, Kieran, if you see some major delays, if you only have one or two big games for Switch for the rest of the year, it definitely could impact hardware. Not going to say for sure yet, but it's definitely something to keep your eye on. Carlos, I'm playing Ratchet 2 in PS3. This game is amazing. Can't wait for the new one in PS5. Yeah, Carlos, I have a theory that game's going to be a launch game or at least early on in the PS5 life cycle. It would make sense for Ratchet and Clank to be there for a couple of reasons. A, it's not as gigantic of a project as some of Sony's other first-party games. So timing-wise, when you look at when the last Ratchet came out, it would make sense for that game to be pretty early in the PS5 cycle. So I think that. Also, it's nice to have a game that's family friendly. Ratchet and Clank obviously can be enjoyed by anyone. You can be a full-grown adult and still love Ratchet and Clank. But the nice thing about it is also, very young gamers can play that game. So it would also make sense with their lineup to have a nice family-friendly game there right off the bat. So yeah, I suspect you're going to see the Ratchet and Clank sequel, the next one, pretty soon. I don't think that game's going to be super late in PS5. I think definitely within the first year and maybe even at launch. I think it's possible. Javier Macias, by the way, with the trophy number that Sony gave about Days Gone, I calculated that there are 5.5 to 6 million players if I've done that right. Javier, It's a bit up in the bag. I have seen the trophy numbers. I would say this. It seems pretty clear, at least 5 million, at least, because if you look at the trophy data, if you look at the number of trophies that have been earned, very few people are going to be hitting high trophy percentages on that game, like the platinum. I think it's under 10%. So, I mean, if you look at the trophies, you cannot exactly one-to-one conflate that with sales. But yes, it looks like at least 5 million people played Days Gone, could be even over 6 million. That's entirely possible, Javier, entirely possible. I think we might have another super chat. So let me give a shout out to this if so, and I will come right back up to your questions. Or it could have just been a second alert. Oh, Frostbite Slash dropping another one. Wow, Frostbite Slash. Thank you. That is incredibly kind of you. That's 2 super chats in one stream. That's incredibly nice. Thank you. Let me get to this question really quick. What do you think the chances are of a Resistance sequel or reboot? Insomniac have been tweeting a lot about the series with this year, and I think it's way overdue. Frostbite Slash, that would be very cool. I don't think it's impossible. I don't think it's impossible you see Resistance come back. Now, is that going to be a big focus at Insomniac? Probably not, because they have, I definitely think another Ratchet and Clank on the way, and definitely Spider-Man 2. I'm sure it's all hands on deck at Insomniac for the Spider-Man sequel. So I think those are your next 2 games from Insomniac are going to be Ratchet and Clank and Spider-Man, but I don't think it's impossible you see Resistance come back this gen. Whether that's a reboot, whether it's even just like a high quality, HD remake of the first game, not impossible. Resistance did have a lot of fans. It wasn't like this gigantic seller, but there is like a passionate fan base around Resistance. So Frostbite, I wouldn't say it's impossible, but I wouldn't expect it like super soon, because like I said, I think that Ratchet and Clank and Spider-Man are going to be first. All right, Ken B. Hi, Benji. Any chance Nintendo could have a mini direct or something in May, since an E3 style June direct is not happening? We know basically nothing coming from Nintendo after May. Yes, Ken, I do think that there's a chance. Some people have been tweeting about this. I believe Jeff Grubb, I keep giving him a shout out, but he's really the one who has been tweeting and saying a lot about what's going on with Nintendo right now. So he seems to be very informed about it. And I think one thing he said is a mini direct in May could happen. Basically, just if they do, don't expect it to be this giant direct, kind of like the June ones are. Expect something a little bit smaller scale. It would make sense, Ken, because like you said, we basically only have for Nintendo right now, in terms of like exclusive games, Xenoblade at the end of May. And then they also announced Deadly Premonition 2 for July, which both of those games should do nice. They're nice games to have, but they're not like these huge games. They're not the Marios, the Zeldas, the Splatoons, we'll have to see how Metroid does, but they're biggest franchises, right? So I would like to see even a mini direct to slightly talk about something, just give us some kind of idea of what's coming. So hopefully can be. Bart Chikasa. So early Assassin's Creed Valhalla predictions. Best-selling Assassin's Creed out of the RPG trilogy question, Origins, Odyssey, Valhalla. Yes, Bart, I definitely think Valhalla will be the best-selling of the RPG Assassin's Creed games. I think that's almost a lock. I tweeted about this earlier. Basically, in its first 24 hours, I went and I looked at the major channels that have uploaded that trailer, right? I looked at the Ubisoft channel. I looked at IGN. I looked at Microsoft. I looked at Sony, and I kind of added all that up. I do this sort of thing because I'm a nerd when it comes to metrics. And it's already at, now it's already over 10 million views and over 500,000, even 600,000 likes. Those are some huge metrics. Now, you can't always one-to-one ratio online chatter with sales. But what you can do is see enthusiasm, and the Assassin's Creed Valhalla enthusiasm is high. People are very, very excited about this. So I think it's going to do big numbers, Bart. Definitely the best selling out of the RPG style games. Could even pass Assassin's Creed 4. That is possible. Not going to say for sure it launches bigger than Black Flag, but possible. Assassin's Creed 3 would be tough. I don't want to say it'll beat Creed 3 yet because that's the biggest ever for the franchise, but it's going to be big. The biggest launch for an Assassin's Creed game in a long time. I feel basically absolutely sure of that. All right, Super Peach Boy. Really think the new Saints Row game will be shown at the Xbox showcase. Ooh, it's possible, Super Peach Boy. That game is going to be coming pretty soon. You know, we don't know exactly when, but I think that they gave an idea that that game is before. Man, I'm trying to remember the exact date. Sometime in 2021 is supposedly when the next Saints Row game's coming out, I believe. So yeah, Super Peach Boy, that's definitely a contender. They'll have to announce it pretty soon if it is indeed coming next year. You know, you're going to have to start that marketing cycle, that hype train. So you very well could be on to something there, Super Peach Boy. Alex Castellanos, pleasure to catch you live, Benji. Thanks you, Alex. Thanks for being here. Love doing the super chats. Not the super chats, the live chats. These are my favorite thing that I do. Dark Detective, good to see you here, Dark. There are still some third-party games that Xbox announced at E3 2019 that we haven't heard anything new about since then. Elden Ring, Tales of Arise, for example. I expect both to be cross-gen. Dark Detective, I think you're spot on the money. I think you're right on. Like I said earlier in the chat, like really at the very beginning, if anyone, you know, the chat has grown. We have more people in here now than we had at the very beginning. One thing I was mentioning at the start, I think if Elden Ring isn't here, we need to start questioning the state of development on that game. You know, it's time to start questioning how well that's going because, like I said, it's been a full year since we've seen that game. And when we saw it, it was just a teaser. It wasn't like a big, huge, you know, gameplay reveal. So we knew a lot was done. It was this tiny, tiny, tiny teaser. So Elden Ring needs to be there. If it's not, it's a little worrying. Julio Peludo here. Can't wait to see what Warner Brothers has prepared. They will end and start the generation very strong, in my opinion. The new Batman, the next Rocksteady project, Harry Potter, whatever Monolith is doing. You're right on the money, Julio. They have a lot in the pipeline, right? WB's been a little quiet for a while. Rocksteady, we haven't seen a game from since Arkham Knight. That was really early in the generation. Monolith has to be getting close to their game coming out because Shadow of War came out quite a few years ago. So that game can't be too far off. Harry Potter has already leaked. We've already seen some of the concept on that. So that's probably not too far away either. So yeah, you're right on the money, Julio. The next I would say 2 to 3 years for WB should be huge. They should have some very, very big projects on the way. JCat saying, what's up? What is up, JCat? Exile N saying they're hyped for the Harry Potter RPG. Me too. I think that has potential to be awesome and a huge seller. The Harry Potter franchise is a juggernaut, right? And we've never really had that AAA awesome Harry Potter game. Like it's just never happened. They've had some Harry Potter games that were like attached to the movies. And some of those, there was a couple that actually were like decent enough little games, but we've never had that big AAA Harry Potter game. So that I think has potential to be pretty huge. Russian Alphabet user, what's your game of the year this year so far? Fun question, Russian Alphabet. So the 2 best games I've played this year so far for me are Final Fantasy VII Remake. That's number 1. That's my favorite game of the year so far. It really is. That is my game of the year. Is Final Fantasy VII Remake as of now. The runner-up for me is Ori and the Will of the Wisps. I loved that game as well. That game was beautiful. The visual style was so amazing. The music was so amazing. The platforming felt so good. So yeah, number 1 for me is Final Fantasy VII Remake. I thought that game was spectacular. I get why some people might not like it, but for me, it was a home run. Absolutely loved it. Those are my top two, Final Fantasy VII Remake and Ori. I'll tell you what, though, I also just started Gears Tactics. That game is awesome. It's not, game of the year caliber for me, but I have been playing that, and Gears Tactics, very, very solid. Couch, do you think we'll get some Bioshock news? What a good question, Couch. I haven't even been thinking about that. Ooh, we got to get Bioshock news probably sometime soon. It's been in development now for quite a while. It actually really has been. It's been a few years that game's been in development, so it's not super early. For now, Couch, I'm going to say no. I'm going to go with no, Couch, for now. But I don't think Bioshock news is probably not too far away. I think you'll hear about it in the next year. I know a year sounds like a long time, but really, when you're talking marketing cycles and things like this, it's not that long. I do think you'll hear about it, let's say by next summer at the latest. I do think you'll hear something about that game soon. But for now, I'm going to say no. I think we still might be just a little bit too early to see it, like at the May 7th event. Maybe at the Game Awards. At the end of the year, you could see it there. That's a strong contender for the Game Awards, actually. Blanco 718. I wonder if we'll get an update on Dying Light 2 next week. Definitely possible. Definitely, Blanco. Y'all are throwing out a lot of good options. That kind of shows you how much they have to work with over there. We don't know exactly how many games are going to be at this showcase. We don't know exactly the scale of it. Is it going to be they're going to show really highlight let's say 5 or 6 games, or is this going to be one of those things where it's like a huge blowout where we're going to see 10, 12 games? We don't know. They haven't really given us an indication yet on the size of the show. But man, there are a lot of options. There are a lot of options that could be there. Forzathon, Elden Ring could also be in the Summer Game Fest if it's not on Inside Xbox. Good point. Good point. Bandai Namco are already confirmed to be there. Great point, Forzathon. Great point. Blanco 718 saying, I hope we get at least a teaser for the new Batman game. Blanco, I think that's going to be at Sony's event. Sony has traditionally had all of the marketing for the Batman games, all the way back to Batman Arkham Asylum, the very first one. They had those exclusive Joker rooms. So Blanco, I think the relationship there between WB and Sony on those games are really strong. So I'm going to guess the Batman teaser will probably be at the PlayStation event. Microsoft as a guest, let's say Monolith is still making another Lord of the Rings game. They've had the marketing on the Lord of the Rings titles. So maybe that's going to be the deal. WB is going to stick with Batman with Sony, and maybe Monolith's game will have Xbox marketing. Can be. Can't wait to hear some of your Assassin's Creed Valhalla rap battles, Benji. That is hilarious. Yeah, so anyone that hasn't seen, part of the game is that they have some sort of rap battle mechanic in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I'm super interested to see what that looks like, because when I first read it, I actually did a double take. I kid you not. I was reading through the list of things, this was direct from Ubisoft. And I read that and I thought I was being trolled. I was like, what? Someone linked something that can't be real. And then I reread it and I was like, okay, it's legit. I was not aware that was part of Viking, what's the word I'm looking for here? Culture. I had no idea that they had something kind of like that. I was not aware at all. So yeah, I'm interested to see what that gameplay is going to be like. Elias Stapleton, how many copies do you think The Last of Us Part 2 will have in their first week sold? And any predictions for the reviews? Elias, I'm expecting it to probably be the biggest PlayStation exclusive launch ever, beating Spider-Man in terms of sell-through, because Final Fantasy VII, we've talked about this on the chat before, that was shipped at 3.5 million. As of now, the record for sell-through that we know for sure, because it's direct from Sony, is Spider-Man at 3.3 million sold in 3 days. I think The Last of Us could probably beat that. I think there's a very strong chance. Even with the leaks and stuff, I still think it's going to launch pretty huge. In terms of reviews, at least from what I've seen, I think reviewers are going to eat this up. So I think even though you're seeing like mixed reaction from some people online, I actually think the reviewers, like that type of person, I think they're going to love what Naughty Dog did. So I'm going to predict definitely over 90 meta. If it's under 90 Metacritic, I'll be shocked. I'll be actually shocked. Carlos, do you think we see something about Overwatch 2 in summer Jeff event? Blizzard will be there. I hope Overwatch. Yes, I do think so, Carlos. I definitely think you're going to see Overwatch 2 very soon, because there's been rumors that game actually launches this year. I don't think that Blizzard confirmed a date, but I believe there's been reports that Overwatch 2 comes out sometime this year. So I definitely think you'll see it. Like you said, Blizzard's on the list for the people involved with Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Showcase. So yeah, I think it's close to 100% chance you see Overwatch 2 very soon. Beatriz Magalhães, what do you think is happening to Nintendo with its radio silence on AAA first-party games? It sounds like they're really struggling in the transition to work from home, and it sounds like that's an issue for a lot of Japanese teams. So I think that's all it is. I don't think it's one of those things where Nintendo didn't have anything lined up. They weren't ready for anything. I don't think it's something like that. I think this work from home has really interrupted and impacted their schedule. So I think that's what it comes down to. Let me grab a drink really quick, y'all. All right. Bart Jacasa. Is Jeff going to reveal more Mortal Kombat 11 DLC characters since Warner is at his event? Ash Williams already leaked, and RoboCop is heavily rumored. I didn't know about RoboCop. That would be awesome. I think so, and I also think you're going to probably start seeing like those games we mentioned earlier. You're going to start seeing stuff from, the Harry Potter game. You're going to start seeing stuff from Batman. You're going to start seeing what Rocksteady's working on. So even if those games get announced, let's say at the Xbox or the Sony showcase, the marketing cycle in general is kicking off now. So maybe those games will be announced before Jeff's event, but you'll probably see more information on them during Jeff's events. So yeah, you're going to see a whole bunch from WB. And Mortal Kombat 11 DLC characters make sense. Costas here. Hey, Benji-Sales, do you think Sony should hire Hemsworth for God of War 5? I mean, he earned $15 million in Endgame, and they can probably hire him for around $5 million to $10 million and still make a ton of money. Yeah, I saw Boss Logic's. He did a Photoshop. I thought the Boss Logic, by the way, just as a real side tangent, I know some people didn't like the length of that stream that they did, where Boss Logic kind of put together that amazing piece of artwork for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. But man, I loved it. Seeing his process and how much went into it was, shockingly impressive. But yeah, he made this really nice Hemsworth Photoshop. Well, it wasn't really Hemsworth, but it was Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but he combined it with Thor. He had the hammer and he had the axe and the lightning. Costas, I don't think that's going to happen. That would be really fun, but I wouldn't expect anything like that. I think that Thor is going to be quite a bit different too than the one that we're used to from Marvel. I think they're going more with the really mythological Thor, who is actually quite a bit different in terms of personality than the Thor that we see in the Marvel movies. Driver 34. When do you think there will be the presentation event of the PS5? June. And do you think they will present some exclusives in the same event, or will they keep them for other events during the summer? Driver 34, I think when Sony finally do talk, they're going big. Sony has been quiet for so long, except for like sporadic things, like when they showed the DualSense, that's really nice. But in general, the last year to 2 years, Sony's been pretty quiet. I expect when they finally do unleash the floodgates, it's going to be huge. I think you're going to see so much from them. So whether they're going to hold stuff for other events during the summer, I actually don't really think they're going to hold much. We know that they're part of Jeff Keighley's summer thing, so they're going to have some stuff there. But I suspect that the PS5 presentation, when it finally happens, is going to be huge. Let's see. Trying to find more questions. JCat, are the Game Pass subscriber numbers concurrent or the total number of signed up? It is current subscribers. Also, do you think Microsoft intends to eventually convert all Xbox owners to Game Pass xCloud and get rid of the box after Series X? No, JCat. I don't think that they are planning on getting rid of the hardware anytime soon. Phil Spencer himself has even said he doesn't see this coming gen as the last generation of consoles. He's even said they're still expecting to be making hardware for quite a while. But what he has said, which is I think the right stance to take, is that things like, xCloud and things like that are really just about expanding gaming, getting it to people who aren't traditionally gaming, right? I don't think Phil or even Microsoft envision the people that go out and buy a Series X on day one. They're your hardcore gamer. They want the best of the best. I don't think that they anticipate in 5 years those people are just going to stop buying consoles and only stream, right? It's more about, let's say you're someone that's a little bit more casual, you kind of just casually interact with games, or you're from a part of the world maybe where, it's really expensive and out of your price range to buy, a brand new console. It's really about making games more accessible to them, which is, I think, the right stance to take instead of something like Stadia, where Stadia was really about streaming only. It's only about streaming. There's like no other options. We're all in on only streaming. And that's like all the messaging. I don't think that's the right direction to take things. And I don't think Microsoft see it that way either. It's more about expanding the ecosystem than just replacing Xbox. So no, you'll still definitely see Xbox consoles for a while. I do think you'll see Microsoft continue to focus on Game Pass and continue to focus on xCloud and things like this. But, I wouldn't be worried that, Microsoft's just going to stop making consoles. Not going to happen anytime soon. Dark Detective. Naughty Dog, Guerrilla, similar studios used to push out a new game every 2 to 3 years in the PS3 gen, but now dev times have effectively doubled. Spot on. How do you expect publishers to solve this pipeline problem? Dark Detective, you're such a smart guy, and it's a great question. So, like you said, it used to be a big AAA game was about every 3 years. Now you're seeing those take 5, sometimes even 6 years between games. And that is a big problem. So I think you're going to see a couple things in terms of publishers, especially. You're kind of seeing like Take-Two do that with Private Division, where they opened another subsidiary. Private divisions run separately from Take-Two, but it's really part of their overall business model. And that was part of it. It was to get these smaller scale games out, these like AA games instead of AAA games, to have a more frequent release schedule. So I think you'll see some stuff like that from publishers, greenlighting a little bit more of these smaller scale, not necessarily indie sized games, but not these just gigantic, 100, 200, $300 million projects. I think you'll see a little bit more of these like $50 million type games. You know what I mean? So I think you'll see part of that. I think you'll see further consolidation in terms of publishers buying studios. Microsoft, there's a reason they went on that shopping spree. They kind of saw this coming, and they also knew with Game Pass, they needed a lot of games lined up for Game Pass. I think acquisitions aren't done, and I don't think they're done for Sony either. I suspect you'll still see, I don't know that you'll see 10 studios bought by these companies, but I do think you're going to see probably another 1, 2, 3 more acquisitions each. I think that's very, very likely. So yeah, it's going to be a couple pronged approach. Release a few more smaller scale games, buy some more studios to help you lift your portfolio, things like this. HDWJNNEP. Viking seems very un-Assassin-like. Totally get that. Do you think Ubisoft would be better advertising this as a new IP, or is Assassin's Creed brand still really strong? So Assassin's Creed has come back with a vengeance in terms of branding. So I totally get why they're still keeping that brand on it. I think the important thing now is to think of Assassin's Creed. We really have to start separating ourselves in terms of thinking of Assassin's Creed like the old Assassin's Creed games were. I know some people hate that. I know some people really don't like the RPG type feel that the new ones have, where also they're exploring more like mythological stuff in the story as well. It's a little less focused on like historical accuracy and things like that. Which Assassin's Creed has always played around with that, but they used to be, like really history focused as well. Now they're using the settings more. They still go into history with it, but they're using it more as like a setting template than they are like to really focus on that. It's time, like we just have to realize Assassin's Creed has morphed. It's not quite the same thing that it used to be. Had Assassin's Creed kept shrinking, you saw for a while, like with Unity and Syndicate, that franchise was actually going down in sales. You probably would have seen something like a Vikings game get spun off into being a new IP, but Assassin's Creed has come back so strong with Origins and Odyssey. It makes sense for this. They're still going to have some Assassin stuff. The trailer even shows the hidden blade and everything like that. So they're still incorporating it. It's just important to realize, like, the Assassin's Creed now is not the same thing as the Assassin's Creed, 1, 2, 3, Revelations, and Brotherhood. Like, the franchise has changed a lot. And next in Hume, thoughts on Ape Escape making a return, not citing any particular rumor here. I think it is an X in Hume, and I could actually see that being a VR game. I could see that being a next-gen PlayStation VR game. That's not inside info. It's just a franchise I think that kind of would make sense in VR. So I would not be surprised at all if Ape Escape A comes back, and B, if it's a VR project. Shatro FTW. If Sony announces the PS5 price in June, Microsoft could possibly undercut them at their big show later. Well, Shatro, I think that's why you haven't heard anyone talk about price yet, because I think we are in a bit of a stalemate where these companies are both, make no mistake, they both have kind of an idea about what each other are doing, even more so than we do. Make no mistake, they don't know everything. They don't know all the intricate details, but Sony and Microsoft are pretty, their reach is huge. They have somewhat of an idea, but they still don't know that dead set price tag. And I think that is a prime reason why you've seen no one even hint at a price yet, because they both are very, possibly worried about the other one undercutting them. So it's going to be interesting to see who pulls that first, because it's possible the other one could undercut, it's going to be interesting. I'm guessing, this is a guess, I think Xbox will announce price before Sony. I think so. I think they're going to do it. If I had to make a prediction, I think Microsoft pulls the price tag first. They've been kind of ahead of Sony all along the way in terms of like marketing, right? In terms of marketing speak for next gen. They've showed the console before Sony did. They've announced the game showcase before Sony has. So it seems like Microsoft kind of is just a little bit ahead of Sony on their marketing timeline. So my guess is Xbox announces price before Sony. Silence PP7. Will we see Rocksteady's game this year? 100% yes. You will see that game announced. I don't think it's coming out this year, though. So it depends, Silenced, on what you mean. I don't think you're going to play it this year, but you will see it announced this year, I think. I'm almost 100% you'll see it announced. I'll be shocked, though, if it's a launch game, because it would essentially have to be a launch game if it was this year. So it's possible. It's totally possible, but I think that game's probably coming out in 2021. Shatro FTW. Jeff confirmed that there is a second Xbox show coming, and it's part of his summer game fest. So it's definitely coming before August. Yeah, I think June. I think Sony and Microsoft are both going to go in June for first party. DMV fan 123. We've heard Microsoft first party is big, and they spend a lot of money for exclusives every gen. They have to prove it to me. I get that viewpoint, DMV fan. I've been talking to some people, and that's one thing we've talked about is really like it is when you look back now, it's kind of shocking how little first party content came out of Microsoft this generation, like strictly first party, not just games that they helped publish, but like their internal studios. Xbox had very few first-party games this gen. So I definitely get people that are waiting. I definitely get people that don't want to take Microsoft's word for it. They want to say, hey, show me what you got. I totally get that, DMV fan, and I don't think that's a wrong stance to take. Completely understandable. HDWJ and NEP. Hey, Benji, with this generation coming to a close, which publishers are the biggest winners? Oh, this is fun. And which are the biggest losers? P.S. My name is my initials. That is a very fun question. So let's look back because, like you said, the gen's basically done. So the biggest winners, I'm a positive guy. So let's look at the biggest winners first. I want to say Ubisoft. You know, they had a rough one of. Don't get me wrong, I have a couple here. Ubisoft is definitely one of them. When you look at through the generation as a whole, now they had a rough last year. This last year for them where they delayed a bunch of games, Division 2 and Ghost Recon Breakpoint both underperformed for them. So the very last year for them was a little rough. But when you look at the generation as a whole, when you look at so many successes they've had, Rainbow Six Siege is just a colossal success. Like I mentioned, Assassin's Creed Origins and Odyssey did very well for them. Far Cry 5 was a massive selling game. So, you know, Ubisoft really had a great run this gen. They had a little difficulty here at the end, but overall, I definitely consider them one of the big winners. I want to say Sony, you know, I think you can include Sony in that picture. Whenever you look at God of War, when you look at the Last of Us even remaster, when you look at Horizon, when you look at Uncharted, I mean, they had so many games, God of War, that were just these like colossal sellers. You gotta include Sony in there from a publishing standpoint. They're definitely one of the big winners. Nintendo as well, but Nintendo's kind of like their own side thing. Their generation like hasn't ended yet, right? They're still right in the mix of it. So I'm going to include Nintendo kind of in their own side part of this because their generations are a little off kilter from the generations of the rest of the industry. So, you know, those are probably the two standouts to me. Really, probably those two. Not EA, Ubisoft and Sony are probably two of my biggest winners. And CD Projekt Red. They didn't have many games, but the game, you know, Witcher 3, I mean, skyrocketed, and you're going to see Cyberpunk do the same. Now, let's talk about the biggest losers. You know, I hate to say this because they're one of the biggest, but I'm going to say EA. I'm going to say EA is definitely in that biggest loser category. Now, if you look at it financially, they've made a lot of money. So I'm talking here more as a fan than I am directly as an investor, let's say. But even on the business side, I think there's been some big mistakes over at EA. So their IP output has really fallen off a cliff this generation. When you look at, they've really consolidated down to just a couple big franchises. You know, you used to see them pumping out games like Mirror's Edge, Dead Space, all kinds of like more interesting, lots and lots of genres. Nowadays, you're seeing them really focus on just a couple. You had a couple big misfires from them this generation too. When you look at, you know, Battlefield 5's launch, that game has recovered, but launch Battlefield 5 was very rough. They've also had some big successes, though. Things like Apex Legends was huge, Star Wars Fallen Order, but they also had another miss again with Battlefront 2 in terms of launch. That's a game that's also recovered. So overall, though, EA hasn't super impressed me. I think they were capable of more than what they accomplished. So I'm going to include EA on my biggest losers list. And really, who else stands out to me is not doing that great? Activision. I hate to say it. Outside of Call of Duty, which is on fire, Call of Duty has been a colossal success, of course, as always. But again, financially, Activision's a massive winner. But in terms of like, do I think that they could be doing more? I do. So hope that answers your question. I'm sure some of those takes are going to be highly controversial, but those are the ones I kind of look at. All right, where are we at? JCat, that was just a comment. Killian Butler. Hey, Benji, do you think a reason for Microsoft announcing separate digital events was to force Sony to be first to release a price and details they wanted to let Microsoft announce first? I don't think they're trying to force Sony. I just think we're at the point now where like you got to start talking. We're starting to run out of time. You know, a lot of people, it's easy to forget, but as long as nothing gets delayed, we're in May now. So you got May, June, July, August, September, October, November. You know, you got maybe 7 months of marketing, which 7 months might sound like a long time. In terms of marketing a brand new platform, tons of games, we're in the final stretch now. So I think Microsoft just announced because it's time to go. You know, there's no more waiting. It's time to go. So I don't think it was to force Sony's hand. I just think the whole industry is ready. You know, there's a reason you saw Assassin's Creed announced. There's a reason, you know, EA's out here talking about Battlefield now, which is coming in 2021. You know, there's a reason there's a big third-party showcase. It's time to get the ball rolling. So not necessarily to force Sony, but it's go time. It's execution time. Bloxa, do you think there will be an Xbox Series X Assassin's Creed Valhalla themed? Ooh, I don't think there will be a themed console because it's pretty rare you get like limited edition themed consoles on day one because production's already so stretched thin at the beginning. You're just trying to get like regular consoles out the door, not so much like custom consoles. You know, that's just like more added work. But I could see an Assassin's Creed Valhalla bundle. I do think there's actually a chance of that. You could see an Xbox Series X bundle with it. Now, not every single one. Don't expect every Xbox Series X to come with Assassin's Creed. But you might see like a limited run of those. Definitely possible because they have the marketing rights on it. Costas, do you think Xbox is going to have as good exclusives as the PS5, or is that a bit too optimistic? Ooh, that's one of those that's just it's just way too early. You know, the things I'm hearing are extremely exciting for Xbox. It's going to be a massively better generation for them next gen than this gen on first party. I can just outright tell you that. Big improvement. But are we going to put them at Sony's level yet? I need to see a little bit more first. You know what I mean? That's not a dig on Xbox at all, but it's just like God of War was so amazing. You know, Horizon was so, you know, Sony's really proved themselves this generation. This is Microsoft's time to prove. And I enjoy a lot of Xbox games, but I need to see the proof in the pudding first. How long have we been going? An hour and 6 minutes. Stream's been awesome. We're up in the 70s, high 60s and 70s the whole time. Like is kind of typical now, which is awesome. We have a new high baseline. I'll go for about, what time is it? I'll go for like 10 more minutes. Sorry to anyone's questions I haven't gotten to, but there's still a whole bunch here. So we'll go for about 10 more minutes, and then I'm going to call the chat. Avid Indian Gamer. People have been talking about Sony being lazy in their PS5 announcements. Since a lot of info, including the specifications, are already out. Shouldn't this be enough for third-party studios to reveal games? So Avid Indian Gamer, you know, as weird as it is, I shouldn't say weird because in some ways it makes sense, but Sony and Microsoft essentially highly pressure companies to not talk about games before they've done their official reveal. So, you know, there was a report that came out from Jason Schreier. I think he put that out earlier this year where he was saying Sony actually were like very upset with Ubisoft when they showed Watch Dogs. All the way back in the day. Remember, they showed Watch Dogs before the consoles were even unveiled, and Sony was not happy about that. So, you know, as a third party, I'm sure it gets frustrating sitting there waiting. Like, I'm sure there's some companies that are ready to go. They're like, hey, let me start talking about our games. But it looks like we're there now. So finally, it's taken a while, but we're there. We finally made it. And then also Avid Indian Gamer saying, love from India, like my content on YouTube. Thank you. Thank you so much. Cheers to everyone in India. I think that's 2 people in the stream from India. That's awesome. I hope everyone's doing well. YTL MDG. Hi from France. Greetings to France. Hello. With all games Sony dropped this late in the gen, Days Gone, Ghost of Tsushima, The Last of Us 2, Concrete Genie, Dreams, could there be some problems early in the gen in terms of first-party games from Sony? Man, that's a great question, YTL. That's a very good question. I don't think so, but it's a possibility. I think you're definitely going to see something from Insomniac very early on. Like I said, probably Ratchet and Clank. Guerrilla are rumored to have a shooter in the works as well as Horizon Zero Dawn 2. So that shooter, if it's real, if that is a thing, that could be pretty early on. Definitely, I think you're going to see Blue Point's game at launch, the game that Blue Point's been hyping for a long time. I suspect you're going to see that at launch. So, I get where you're coming from, because some studios definitely are going to be a while away. Naughty Dog's not going to have a game for a while, because The Last of Us is about to come out. Sucker Punch isn't going to have a game for a while, because Ghost of Tsushima is not even out yet. You got to think Bend Studios a few years away as well, because Days Gone just came out last year. So I get where you're coming from, YTL. I wouldn't panic about it yet. But yeah, it will be interesting to see the release slate, how that all times out. Silence PP7. How do you see Crysis Remastered doing? And do you think we'll see the sequels remastered or Crysis 4? Silence PP7, if remastered does well, which I think it has potential to do pretty strong. If it does well, I think they're going to go straight into Crysis 4. I don't think they're going to remaster 2 and 3. It could happen, but I think my guess is this is kind of like a test run to see if Crysis can come back. They were on shaky legs over there for a little bit at Crytek. They really were. There was a couple of years where Crytek looked like they were in some big, big trouble. Then the Hunt Showdown came out, and they really rebounded. They've really come back, ever since then. So I think this Crysis remaster is a test run. Let's see if Crysis is still a healthy franchise that can sell. And if it does well, yes, I think you will see Crysis 4 next over remakes or remasters of 2 and 3. That's my guess. Death Star 100. Going to be exciting to see Nintendo's updated sales with Pokemon and Animal Crossing. Yes, I predict they both outsold their predecessors for sure. Death Star. Oh yeah, Animal Crossing shipments are going to be huge. So on May 7th, actually the same day as the Xbox event, we also have Nintendo's investor briefing where they will give a ton of data about Switch. We're going to find out new shipment numbers for all their first-party games. We're going to find out exactly where the Switch shipped at the end of March, exactly how many units have been shipped. So sales fans and Nintendo fans, lots of Nintendo news on the way as well. And let's see, I think we got time for one more question. Another from India. This is awesome. Thank you for everyone from India. Vignesh Krishnan here. Thank you so much. This is so cool seeing so many people from India in the stream. That is awesome. Giola saying that they love my work. Thank you. Thank you. Trying to get to one last question. Let's see here. Here we go. I think Super Peach Boy is probably going to get the last one. So sorry to anyone else whose questions I've missed. Last question here from Super Peach Boy. When do you reckon Far Cry 6 is going to be revealed? Jason Schreier had previously said that Assassin's Creed and Far Cry were the next big games for 2020, 2021. Super Peach Boy, very soon, within the next few months. Might be at the Xbox event, might be at Sony's event. Could be during this whole summer thing that's coming up with Keighley. Far Cry 6, unless it was delayed, there's a slim chance that game could have been delayed, but unless it caught a delay, you're going to see Far Cry 6 announced very, very, very soon, the next couple months. All right, everyone, thank you for another amazing stream. I'm sorry to anyone whose questions I've missed. We've been going for a bit over an hour here, so I'm sorry to anyone I missed, but usually right around an hour 15 is where I like to call the chat. If you enjoyed this stream, make sure you subscribe. We do these about once to twice a week. Lately, it's been twice a week because the streams have been really successful and there's been a lot of news. So make sure you subscribe. Hit that like button if you liked the stream because it helps everyone find the channel, find the streams. Be safe out there, everyone. Go play some games. Go have some fun. I will catch you either on Twitter or in the next stream. Thanks, everyone, for another awesome time, and I will see you soon.